What do crying kids, clout chasers, and mass commercialization all have in common? This guy. The elf on the shelf that, despite the name, isn't always doing something quite so innocuous as just sitting on a shelf. What started as a single family's original tradition has grown into an entire holiday empire because these little elves are marketed and sold as just that, a Christmas tradition. This one tiny, mischievous, and low-key suspicious looking doll has amounted to movies, a branded cereal, a Food Network show, a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade balloon, elf-themed holiday resorts, a musical, and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Now, I don't have any kids, and I don't know anyone who does. My experience with Elf on the Shelf has pretty much been viewing it from a distance on social media, where people post all the silly poses people found their elves in, and I thought that's all there was to it. It just seemed like a bit of Christmas fun, but that was before I considered that there was more to this company, nay, this juggernaut, than meets the eye. Namely, the crying kids, clout chasers, and mass commercialization, like I said 30 seconds ago. At its core, Elf on the Shelf is a simple concept, conveniently described in the storybook it's packaged with. These aren't just Santa's helpers, but scout elves, specially assigned by Santa to fly to a kid's house each December. Oh, and if you're a kid with a scout elf of your own, Santa called me and said you're not actually allowed to watch this video. Okay? Each child is tasked with lovingly choosing a name for their elf, and the book provides some examples in case they can't think of anything better than Fizby, Zart, Criddle, or Fred.
Yo, it's Fred!
Then they're officially part of the family and free to begin their job of watching and reporting on everything a child does. Even when you can't see them, when you're nowhere near the respective shelf that they may or may not be sitting on, trust that they are watching. In the car, at the park, or even at school, the word will get out if you broke a rule. In addition to good behavior, this rule-breaking policy also applies to the #1 Scout Elf rule. Kids cannot touch their elf, or they'll strip it of its Christmas magic altogether, and probably be put on the North Pole's equivalent of a no-fly list, but that part's implied. Each night after a day of recon, the elves will fly back to the North Pole and report their findings to Santa, but it's their return trips back to the house that have really solidified their reputation. I'll be back at your home before you awake, and then you must find the new spot I will take. So nothing crazy, just hiding in a new spot for a little bit of Christmas fun. The kitchen, the bathroom, on top of a plant?
Oh my god.
Now that would be crazy. As per the lore, scout elves are forbidden by Santa to actually speak to anyone or be seen moving, and according to the book, all of the elves have to follow his laws. So Santa's an Arctic authoritarian, got it. That means that these little guys use their hiding spots as a way to communicate, and since the book itself never really details how the elves will hide, there are no rules or expectations and anything goes. In the real world outside of the book, instead of just a simple hiding spot, elves are usually posed and positioned in various setups, being caught in the middle of doing wacky activities, leaving notes or other messages, or even leaving treats out for the kids. Most of the time it results in silly situations involving Christmas decorations, tons of puns, and weirdly a lot of toilet humor. But it's all for the sake of seeming as whimsical as possible so that the kids have fun and believe that their elf is actually magic and watching over them. Somewhere along the way, though, some liberties were taken, and the simple fun of merely sitting the elf in a new location each night, which evolved into the elaborate setups, has further evolved into clout chasing, competition, and controversy. The vast majority of families probably don't make their elf do anything worse than decorate the milk jug or eat cereal out of the toilet. But some of those who participate have reached a point where they're all trying to out-elf each other without ever directly saying that's what they're doing, especially if they're posting their elf's antics online. Making hot chocolate in the sink, gift wrapping the bathroom, arranging playdates with other toys, or building towers out of couch cushions. There are no limits. I guess none of these are too crazy, all things considered, but for reference, the wildest scenario shown in the book was an elf hiding in a bubble bath. How did we get here? It's impossible to identify the turning point exactly, but now the endless displays of elves being silly isn't just synonymous with the brand, but almost overshadows the actual concept of the product entirely. For a quick reminder, aside from hiding each night, the main purpose of the elf is to be a lookout for Santa, which in theory encourages good behavior and integrity to continue that behavior even if no one is looking. I wouldn't say that the elves printing out Elfies and taping them to the fridge is going to irreparably scar children or something. But what if the elves aren't doing something that's just a little silly, but something that's against the rules entirely? There are a large number of displays that include elves doing things that is against the rules for children to do. Sometimes it's minor infractions, like making a variety of messes, breaking into the pantry to eat treats, drawing on family photos, or playing with makeup. But there are also larger offenses like stealing money from a piggy bank or directly from a parent's credit card, drinking alcohol, and a strange trend of cartoonish violence, usually against other elves, toys, or vegetables. So the good guys who enforce good behavior are displaying bad behavior themselves. But if you do something bad, then they'll tell Santa and ruin your Christmas. Forever, probably. What's the message here? That as long as someone's a figure of authority or has power over you, they can't be punished, and any wrongdoings should be ignored completely? And what if they're not just making a mess, but touching personal belongings like underwear and toothbrushes? Yes, it's just a weird little elf doll and not actually invading their privacy. To us. As far as kids are meant to believe, this is essentially a tiny magical stranger in their house, and they're not even allowed to touch it. And if the obnoxious genre of OMG, my elf came to life, caught on camera, gone spooky on YouTube, and the millions of views that it garners are anything to go off of, kids are really susceptible to believing this stuff. Not just that their elf is magical, but that it's more than capable of doing things that they don't agree with. But they just have to accept the lack of boundaries because it's related to Santa? Even if many kids don't follow this line of thinking at all and just think it's funny, is this not still contradicting the point of the whole concept, which is to encourage doing the right thing? I know how it all sounds. Like, I'm reading too far into it, it's not that deep, seriously, it's just a silly little toy, what's the big deal, etc, etc. All I'm saying is to think about the potential precedent this sets. Kids are very impressionable and record information, make assumptions, or come to conclusions even when that wasn't the intended effect. It's just a weird path to take the whole thing down. And it just gets weirder. When the goal of setting up an elf display isn't to make kids laugh, but to get any strong reaction out of them, whether negative or positive, then we've lost the plot. You've probably seen that video of the little girl with the cute accent upset about someone drawing on her face.
Nah, it's not funny, I've got school. I'm not laughing, I've got school.
Well, you know who did it?
The elf.
No, it was her parent. The elves don't actually move, you know that, right? Sure, it's just marker, and not long into the video, she just washes it off. But her first reaction, recorded on camera and posted online, isn't Christmas joy and laughter. She's just upset. And this isn't a one-off occurrence either. If anything, most of the other examples of children reacting poorly to their elf's pranks are worse, and that's just what's posted online. This kid is clearly very upset at his elf after it appears to have broken his iPad. This elf left a mess on the floor and ate some chocolate that they weren't supposed to, leaving this girl crying and apologizing for its behavior. And in one of the most infamous cases, another girl is left in sobbing hysterics after she finds the shriveled up skin and bones of her elf after it was touched and lost its Christmas magic. Of course I can't sit here and lie to you and say that this isn't funny, because look at that. It is funny. Passing off chicken bones as an Elf on the Shelf's corpse is so ridiculous that I laughed when I first saw it. But that girl is crying real tears, and that makes it less funny to me, because to her, she didn't just break a rule, but hurt somebody that she cared about. The note from the elf even said that she did it by accident, and a little further digging showed that a day before the bone incident, this girl was already crying over touching her elf and being afraid for what might happen to her friend. This mom knew that the chicken bones would just instigate more tears and a meltdown, so why punish her further? Because clout? Or because Christmas? This is more of an outlier case, but it's just really messed up that any parent would want to make their child cry, intentionally do so, laugh at it, and then post that reaction online. There's not enough context for any of these videos to know if it was some weird form of discipline from the parents administered through the elves, but would that make it any better? What if the kids didn't do anything to warrant the elf acting this way? Isn't the elf supposed to be their friend and on their side? Does the kid ever think that Santa, the touted decider of all morals, naughty and nice, personally has something against them? Or take away the elf from the equation altogether. If a kid was pranked to the point of tears directly by their own parents, would it be as easily dismissed as a harmless and silly Christmas tradition? No matter the involvement of elves and Christmas and praise versus punishment, there's still a fine line between it's just a prank and actually harming and upsetting someone. Spoiler, if someone is crying at the end, it's not a prank, it's just mean. And that end result feeling is real to the kids, even if you just tell them to laugh it off. Honestly, even the children who are fortunate enough to not get bullied by their elves still might not always have an ideal relationship with them. The idea of being watched by some magical entity to ensure you're on your best behavior wasn't introduced by the Elf on the Shelf. It's just an extension of the Santa lie, which has been around for a long time and has never really been an issue. There's even a song about it. How bad could it be? If the elf is doing the same thing as Santa, what's the problem? Well, it's just like a wise old lyricist once said, Christmas is creepy. Being an adult during Christmas definitely gives you a different perspective on the whole Santa sham, and when listening to the song, no, the other song, it does start to seem weird that anyone is telling you, you better watch out, he sees you when you're sleeping and knows when you're awake. But excluding those guys at the mall, you'll never actually see Santa, so it's more the omnipresent idea of him that's used as a moral compass. Until there's a small, mischievous little man, tangible and teleporting, inside of your house, tasked with the sole purpose of watching you. Suddenly, Santa's surveillance feels a lot closer to home. Literally. It's like the meme about the FBI agent watching you through your phone, right? Which may or may not have any stake in reality. Versus if the FBI came into your house and installed an obvious listening device in your kitchen, and then left you cute little notes spelled out in Cheerios. You've heard of Elf on the Shelf, now get ready for federal wire inside the air fryer. Okay, this is a weird analogy, but the point is that while it may not bother everyone, and most kids probably don't even think twice about it, being constantly monitored is weird. And I'm not saying that the regular version, Sans Elf, is any better. I myself had tons of moments as a kid where I felt like I was never truly alone because I thought Santa was watching me even outside of December. So really, the whole practice doesn't sit right with me, and if anything, having the elf around, especially with constant reminders that he's watching through silly little notes or taking pictures of you while you sleep, just makes it worse. But it isn't all doom and gloom. In most houses, the Elf on the Shelf is probably just a silly prankster at worst. The bottom line is, just keep it lighthearted and don't do anything Santa wouldn't do. After all, the elf's what you make it, especially with the help of the Santaverse. The Santaverse is the wide range of products that includes everything marketed under the Elf on the Shelf branding. Each elf, which only seems to come packaged with the book included, is $30, and trust that these are the only official Scout elves, because there are a lot of copycats who have really tried, or at least kinda tried, to replicate this whimsical little face. But of course, it doesn't end there. The Scout elves come in different genders and skin tones, while elf mates come in different hair colors with new smarmy expressions and different outfits. Elf mates also have different jobs, chef, cobbler, or toy maker instead of scouting. What these guys are supposed to do if they don't watch you, and why you'd want to abduct one of the essential workers of the North Pole, I don't really know, but they're still available for purchase, and it's probably all detailed in their book anyway, which is sold separately. Scout elves also come in plush form in 4 different sizes, action figures, posable figures, mini blind bag figures, and baby form. Of course there's baby elves. There's always babies. I don't even want to know the logistics here of how baby elves get made, but look, they exist. Since you can't touch your Scout elves, there's a handy-dandy elf carrier available for purchase, so you can take them with you wherever you go. Never mind that, like, a basket or Tupperware or literally any other receptacle could also get the job done. This one is official, and although you can't dress them up yourself either, you can still leave a wide variety of tiny elf clothes out for them in hopes that they'll get dressed in whatever you picked out. Anything from pajamas, aprons, and dresses to sports equipment, 80s fits, or superhero costumes are available for your elf's wardrobe. And yes, since I know you're probably wondering, there is indeed a little something for all the sneakerhead elves out there too. If your elf is lonely, you could always get them a reindeer, Saint Bernard, or Arctic fox cub as an elf pet. From what I can tell, these are meant to function like the elves do, in case you want to skip the creepy little face altogether and have a more cuddly figure in your home, but still be wary that something is always watching. Each animal has its own separate book, animated special on DVD, mobile game, and additional elf pet accessories including clothing and a Santaverse branded checkup toy set. The classic Christmas motif, veterinary practice. Even when you're not directly involved with your elf and its activities, you can still have more elf fun with even more licensed merch, including but not limited to stickers, activity books, tableware party packs, advent calendars, costumes, blankets, pajamas, letters to Santa, books, board games, card games, and even a terrible shovelware game. And let's not forget the official collaborations, like Happy Meal toys at McDonald's, a collab with American Girl, complete with a doll-sized elf doll for your girl doll. Pop-Tarts, fruit snacks, and cereal with Kellogg's, festive menu items at IHOP, and holiday resort sweets and packages through beaches in Jamaica and Turks and Caicos. While toys and green pancakes are great and everything, we all know that the actual elves doing weird secret stuff in your home at night while you sleep is the real main attraction. So you'd better believe that the Santaverse has ways to monetize that aspect too. You thought you just had to buy the single elf for $30 and that would be it? That was just the beginning. You're locked in for life now. They know where you live. Polar props are, well, props that facilitate an elf's mischief and help bring a display to life. There's food, furniture, backdrops, vehicles. The possibilities are endless. Sure, you could just toss a couple Oreos on the counter and call it a day, but how will the Christmas spirit survive if your Santa-issued surveillance unit isn't able to play an elf-sized version of pickleball or take a spin on the Twinkle Tractor? I feel kind of neutral on the actual use of these props. I certainly don't think you need a bunch of plastic nonsense, and especially not branded and overpriced plastic nonsense, to make a good elf display. But also, if they spark joy or creativity, then hey, it's your money and you can do what you want with it. My real beef comes back to who would have guessed, the people who make and sell the props, the same as all the other overpriced branded nonsense. Some families that participate in Elf on the Shelf have shared that they actually feel pressure to keep up with the whole tradition each year. It's just an extra step to add on to what's already a busy holiday season, and of course the amount of user-made content on social media centered around how you need to make fun elf displays can be really overwhelming.
I'm just sitting here minding my own business when I remembered I have to do Elf on the Shelf later. And for the next 25 days, whoever invented Elf on the Shelf, I hate you.
So the Elf on the Shelf creators responded by saying, "Hey, take it from us. You don't need to do anything crazy, just keep it simple." Anyway, here's a $50 idea kit to help alleviate some of that stress. We're doing this for you. This first kit was just one of many like it, and of course, like other separate prop sets, all created under the guise of helping to ease their customers' elf posing burdens. It does seem like a convenience at first glance. It's got pre-packaged ideas for each day of December, until you realize there are also birthday and year-round kits for other holidays, and that the company is imposing that elf-related stress itself to drive up sales. Sure, no one is making you buy any of this extra stuff, but look at it this way. None of the other traditional festivities of Christmas have to be one-upped each year. You can reuse the same lights, ornaments, and plate of treats for Santa without worrying about buying new decorations or the Ultimate Christmas Cookie Ideas cookbook to make sure you're on top of your game. It's even more marketing disguised as holiday cheer, but I guess that's to be expected since that's the foundation of the entire brand. If somehow, even after all of this, you still need convincing that none of this is actually in the name of festivity and is instead just centered around profit, then may I present to you the Swarovski Elf on the Shelf, a doll covered in crystals that retails for $5,000. Come on, you're gonna look at me and tell me that I'm wrong? And we're still not done yet. The Santaverse isn't just a name for a collection of products, but an actual established universe with magical realms and over a dozen original creatures and characters. Along with the elves and, of course, Santa, Mrs. Claus, and the elf pets, there's also Nora, a magic Arctic fox, Barry, Santa's pet St. Bernard, Yetis in the grunt and snow biggie variety, and bogies, these little gremlin squirrel things. You can find these different characters across various animated DVD specials, animated shorts, music videos, the official Elf on the Shelf stage musical, this Scout Elf Squad YouTube miniseries that's just a blatant Paw Patrol ripoff with elves instead of dogs, and of course, on even more merchandise. Because Christmas wouldn't truly be complete without plushes, books, ornaments, and blind bags of each and every licensed character. On the Santaverse website, there are pages that explain a bit of backstory and trivia about each character, though it's usually just random surface level stuff. The Yetis help test toys, every toy built by the elves is made of pine cones and twigs, there's a Ted Lasso elf, and basically anything else that amounts to Christmas magic is always the answer. Santa's character page also lists some fun facts, like he collects hats, drinks peppermint tea, and was once a young boy in medieval modern-day Turkey that fought an evil wizard for ultimate knowledge of magic and the universe. Yeah, Santa doesn't just have a character description, but an origin story and lore fully laid out in the Santaverse novel, sold separately, Nicholas the Noble, where he battles magic creatures in 282 AD. I'm obviously not gonna read the whole story, but just the synopsis is surprisingly gritty for a kid's book, and especially for the origin story of Santa, of all people. He gets orphaned in a shipwreck as a 12-year-old and fights off monsters with a sword in the Arctic. Granted, one of the monsters is this thing, which looks like someone tried and failed to draw a griffin from memory, but it's still pretty rough and tumble. I don't really want to know what happens as much as I'm just curious how a human kid ended up as an immortal head honcho, and how any of this relates to Christmas. I can't tell if I'm just tired of this brand or if this is a justified complaint, but this is weird, right? That not just Santa, but every aspect of Christmas folklore is being completely reshaped and repackaged. Also, a company can sell more books and elf dolls. Granted, it's not like Elf on the Shelf is the only company to ever capitalize on the commercialization of a major holiday. Everyone that's able to sell you something is also trying to get a piece of the Christmas pie, or Yule log, or whatever, during the holidays. And any brand, product, or piece of media relating to Christmas is also inherently competing with all the other lore out there just by existing. There's no consensus on what the elves actually look like, or if Rudolph is involved or not. Sometimes there's a magic train, or a ludicrous elf at the North Pole. And it's all just made up anyway, so taking creative liberties is free game. But I guess that's the point. Part of the Christmas magic is that it's all open to interpretation. There's no one answer for anything, never mind an established backstory. And almost everyone's experience with Christmas is completely unique because it's shaped by their favorite movies, their family traditions, and anything else that speaks to them and makes the holiday fun. And the Elf on the Shelf and its ever-growing list of trademarks doesn't feel like a new interpretation or retelling of the same story, as much as it's just paving the way for more merchandise that's marketed as a Christmas tradition. Consumerism and selling AI Christmas prints at Hobby Lobby is one thing, but at what point does selling a product turn into rewriting Christmas for your own company's gain, making sure all magical signs, festivities, and traditions point back to your licensed characters and how to buy them? At the end of the day, this isn't a world-ending problem or anything. Christmas will continue to exist and will always be commercialized. It doesn't mean that Elf on the Shelf isn't a valid tradition, that there's absolutely no fun or point to it all, or that participating makes you a bad Christmas enjoyer or something. If you still like to bring out the little elf doll each year and make it say toilet jokes, then that's just fine. You should celebrate in your own way and do what makes you and your family happy. I just think it's still worth it to shed some light on the corporate machine sometimes, offer a new perspective, and, like every Christmas story ever, remind everyone what the true meaning of Christmas is. That joy is found in genuine connection with the ones you love, and not just what's sold in a store. Hi, welcome to Jelly TV, where I shout out a video that I think deserves some love. I recommend watching Bratz Babies Save Christmas featuring Adam Sandler by Melody Moon. I briefly encountered this really weird movie when making another video, and I somehow let it slip my mind just how strange and terrible it is. Melody Moon provides thorough and funny commentary as a way to ease you into the Bratz as babies and their weird baby Christmas world, making it just that much easier to suffer through its janky animation and nonsensical plot. Merry Christmas. A huge thank you to Daniel E. from ABQ, Bunzo, Karis Desarun, Chumby, Knuckleoso, Lojua Animal, Lou, Luna Stephenson, Mark Kent, Nighttime Coral, Ollie E., Paper Sam, Pharmamax, Pixel Puppy, Shaples, Theodore Nicolailius, and the rest of my patrons for supporting me. Whatever you do, don't look on your shelf when you go to sleep tonight. You might find something you don't want to see.